Hello everyone, and welcome back to the How to Make a Five Nights at Freddy's 2 tutorial in Scratch. This is part 3. In this episode, we will be showing you the most things out of any other episode in the series. We will be showing you cameras, camera lights, the music box, character AI, the mask, character movement, character in the vents, characters in the halls, and Foxy's behavior. Let's get started. To begin, we should make the camera button. So, let's make a new sprite and call it camera button. I will import the button, and again, if you guys do want the art from the official game, you can check the link in the description and download all the assets that I'm using in this video. However, I highly recommend you create your own because you're going to want to make your own game. So I'll drag in the camera icon. Here it is right here. It looks fantastic. Now let's get to programming. So when we receive the menu screen, we will obviously hide and then stop other scripts inside of this sprite. Fantastic, pretty easy, basic stuff. Next we do when I receive game start, we'll grab a repeat until and throw it inside. And then we will pick go to front. And we will decide where it needs to go. This is, again, totally dependent on how big it is and how long it is. It totally depends on the size of your sprite. I know that mine goes to 120 and 165. If you're wondering how I know these numbers, by the way, I've already created Five Nights at Freddy's 2 in preparation of making this tutorial, and I've posted it already, and I have the exact project open on my other monitor so I can see the code. That's how I know these things. I've already made it, and I've already set this stuff up. And we're going to set the size. I know that 50 size works for me. What we're going to do is put an if statement inside and grab an equal symbol, put mask up in the first bubble and 0 in the second bubble. Then we will go to front layer and show. Then we need to check if it is touching the mouse pointer. We are touching the camera button. We will go to front layer. This is really to make sure our layering is correct and even as it should be. You can duplicate what we made and just get this if equals and put it underneath the go to front layer if mask equals 0. We can then grab an if statement, put it inside, duplicate what we have here, switch mask up for camera up equals 0. We can make a broadcast called camera.show. Then we will wait 1 second, and then we can wait until, grab your greater than sign, put mouse Y in the first bubble. I know that negative 150 works for me. This is dependent on how high up on the screen you want your mouse to go, because again, you're going to flick it, right? You put it on, and then you flick it back up. You know how it goes. So for me, I feel anything greater than negative 150, which is pretty easy to hit because 180 is the bottom of the screen and 150 is right about here. So you don't have to go real high. All right, wait for it to be above 150. Then you can turn this camera up into an if else. And inside, what you can do is we can make a broadcast called camera.hide. That's if the camera isn't up, right? If the camera is not up, we have to show the camera. If the camera is up, we have to hide the camera. And then you can also put a wait 1 second underneath there as well. This first mask up, you can change to an if-else statement. And inside, you can just put a hide underneath. There we go. That'll set up the system for making the camera actually work, which is really all we need for the camera button. Now, you might notice that if you play your game, that your camera button may be behind your desk. If that's the case, you can simply come to your desk fan and maybe grab a go backwards and put it right underneath the go to front and mess with this number until you get your button in front of your desk. For me, 5 works, so 5 is what I'll use to get my button in front of my desk. Let's continue. The next thing we'll be adding is the camera animation. So we'll make a new sprite and call it camera animation. And I will drag in my camera animation sprites. You can make your own. I recommend you do that. So as we see here, I've implemented every single camera animation of the camera coming up onto the screen, which is exactly what we need. Let's get to the programming. When we receive menu, we will obviously, as per usual, hide and stop other scripts inside of this sprite. Then, when we receive camera show, this is where we set up where everything needs to be. We will show, and we have some sounds. So let me get these sounds loaded in. So I'll load in these sounds. Camera up and camera down. Great. So we will start sound camera up because we are showing the camera. We'll go to 0, 0. And we'll need to set the size. 100 works for me. You might have to change it depending on the size. So set size to 100. And then we will switch our costume to the first costume that shows up. In my case is 115. These are named odd, by the way, because I took them straight from an asset pack that was thrown onto a Reddit account that I found. Anyways, we will now repeat however many frames we have after the first one. We have 11 frames total, minus 1, that's 10, so repeat 10 times. We will go to front layer and next costume. Then we will broadcast camera change. Remember, we made this a long time ago to make these static lines appear. Camera change, remember we made this happen, which is exactly what we want. We want those lines to show up again. We will wait 0.1 seconds. We will set camera up to 1 because our camera is now up. And we will set our camera from office to monitors. Then we will wait another 0.1 seconds. We will hide. And we will switch our costume to none. And none is just a blank costume, so come to the bottom and make a new costume and just call it none. And then switch the costume to none at the end. Fantastic. Let's duplicate what we have and switch camera show to camera hide. Switch camera up to camera down. All this stays the same. Switch this to your final costume. Repeat 10 times. Go to front layer, and instead you will switch costume to grab a minus, put a 1 in the second bubble, and go to looks and grab costume number and put it in the first. Then afterwards, we will go to the front layer, hide, and again, switch our costume to none. There we go. Fantastic. That's exactly what we need. Before we start hopping into the really, really big camera work, because that's going to be very long, I'm going to quickly hop into the mask section and show you how to make the mask. So let's make a new sprite and call it mask button. I will import the mask button. All right, here is the button right here. Let's get to programming as per usual. When I receive menu, we will hide and stop other scripts in this sprite. Fantastic, just as we always needed to do. Then when I receive game start, we'll grab a repeat until, put it there, and we will have it go to the front layer, go to, again this will depend on how big your sprite is. I know mine is -120 and -165. We need to choose the size. For me is 50. So we'll set size to 50. Fantastic. Now we need to check an if-else statement to say if, put an equal sign, go to your variables, grab camera up, and make the other bubble say 0. If camera up is 0, we will show. And then we need to check an if statement and say if touching mouse pointer. We will, again, you can just grab this and take out everything inside and put camera up equals 0 inside and switch it to a normal if statement. If camera up equals 0, you can duplicate this, take out the bubble, and put mask up inside and make this an if else statement. Mask up equals 0. We will broadcast mask.show, and we will wait 1 second. We will go to the front layer, and then we will wait until grab a greater than. This is the same as the camera button, mouse -150, just to get your mouse back up all the way. And in this other half, you can duplicate what we made, make a new broadcast called mask hide, wait 1 second, and wait until again. In this bottom else statement, you can just throw a hide inside. And there you go. That's all you'll need so far for this button. Now we can move on to the mask animation. So let's go ahead and make a new sprite called mask animation. I will import the sprites for that now. As we see, I've imported the mask animation coming down. And as you see, the final animation still has a little bit of wiggle room down there. You can see it. That's because the full mask coverage will be covered with the actual mask as a different sprite. You see my size doesn't quite fit the screen there. So if I just set it to 101, it typically fills up the entirety of it. In this case, it did. That's fantastic. Let's get to the coding of the mask animation. As per usual, when I receive menu, we can hide and stop other scripts in this sprite. Pretty classic coding. Everybody knows it. Now, when I receive mask show, again, this is the same thing as the camera animation, just with a mask. We have 2 mask sounds. I'll import those now. As you can see here, we have 2 sounds. We have mask and mask 2, but we can go ahead and rename these to mask show and mask hide. Swap these around. You can see mask show and mask hide. Fantastic. So upon mask showing, mask show, we will start sound mask show. We will go to 00. Go ahead, set your size. In my case is 101. And then we will show. We will switch our costume to the very first costume. In my case is 141. We repeat the length of time that we have. I have 8 costumes total. -1 is 7. So we will repeat 7 times. Go to the front layer. Set our size to 150. And next costume. Afterwards, we will set our mask up to 1 and hide. Duplicate what we have, and underneath mask hide, we will start sound mask hide. We will then set our mask up to 0 before the sound starts, set the sizes, switch the costume to the last one, again 7 times. All of this stays the same. Where our go to front layer, blah blah blah, instead of next costume, we grab a switch to costume, grab a minus, put 1 inside the second bubble, go to looks, and put costume number inside the first. Get rid of the set mask up to 1 and have it say hide. And there we go. There is our mask animation all finished. Let's finish up the mask by making one more sprite and actually calling it mask, because this is the mask that will show up once the mask is fully down. So here is mine. I think it looks pretty good. So let's begin programming this mask. You know how we start. When I receive menu, hide, and stop other scripts in this sprite. You know how it goes. Very fantastic, very epic. You understand. It's good. And then when I receive mask show, we will wait until, grab an equals sign, go to sensing, grab this backdrop number of stage, switch stage to mask animation, and choose costume number, and set it to your final costume number. In my case is 6 for me of a mask animation. When the costume number equals 6, as in it's pretty close to being all the way down, but not fully all the way down. Okay, we will go to 0, 0. We will run an if-else statement and check an equals symbol. Say camera up. If camera up equals 0, then we will set mask up to 1. If else, we'll set mask up to 0. Then we will show and go to front layer. And then inside of a repeat until statement, or again, forever loop, we will go to 0, 0. We'll grab an if statement with an equal sign, put a 0 in the second bubble, and put mask up in the first. If mask up equals 0, we will stop this script. This is just checking. This is setting up an animation right here of how it moves and sways, and we need to check every once in a while that if the mask has been put up, we'll stop the script. Okay. Then we will glide 1 second, 2, and now you can set up a moving animation. If you want a pretty fluid one, you can follow what I do. This is setting X and Y to 15, and then duplicate what we have with this mask up equals 0, stop the script. The second position I find good is 30 and 4. Duplicate it. Next one is 15 and negative 15. Duplicate it. The next one I find nice is 0 and negative 15. After 0 and negative 15, I find negative 15 and 15. After negative 15, 15, I like negative 73 and 4. After negative 73 and 4, you can do negative 39 and negative 27. Then after negative 39 and negative 27, I do 0 and negative 24. After 0, negative 24, you can do back to 0, 0. And then one more time, just check if the mask is up. You'll also want to, above mask show, make sure the size is set correctly. I find that 150 works really well for me. There we go. And then when we receive mask hide, we can simply just hide. When we receive game start, we will start it off by hiding, and then we will set 2 variables. We can set camera up to 0, and we can set mask up to 0. Fantastic. Now, when we receive mask show, we will run an if statement. And we will say if equals 1, meaning mask up. If mask up equals 1, then we will check if camera up equals 1. So let me find that. Then we will set camera up to 0. This is just double checking to make sure if both the camera and the mask are up at the same time. We fix it by making only one show up at a time. You can duplicate camera up and put it underneath everything, just like this. And making a broadcast saying camera hide. There we go. That'll just fix any problems if ever the mask and camera are both up at the same time. We obviously don't want that. And then obviously one more time, we'll do when I receive camera show. We will repeat 10 times. Hide. Set mask up to 0. And then wait 0.1 seconds. Again, this is just a fix in case the camera and mask are up at the same time. This should solve the problem and fix it in case it ever were to happen, which we obviously don't want it to happen. Let's grab another when I receive. Say when I receive camera show. We'll check if ribbon equals mask up equals 1. Then we will broadcast mask hide. When I receive menu, if mask up is 1, mask hide. Fantastic. There we go. That should fix any potential problems that could happen. And by the way, if we want to see this animation real quick, if I set the size of this to 150 and have it go to 0, 0, we can see what the animation looks like right here. See, it sways. I think it's a pretty nice general animation for just moving the mask around. Again, you can switch that to however you want. If you want to copy those numbers just for a quick and easy mask movement one, that's what I use. And now in game we can see when we hover over the mask button, the mask comes down and animates, and then it comes back up. Now you might notice your light buttons are above it. This is the same problem that you had with the camera button on the desk. Just go into your light buttons and do that backwards layer until you find something that works for you. Now let's get into the big one, the cameras. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually set up the camera maps and the camera buttons. So let's make a sprite and call it map. Now the sprite I'm going to put in here is, the way we're going to do buttons is a little interesting. Here is the camera map of FNAF 2. You'll make your own, obviously. So let's set up camera map and you'll see what I mean as we go along. When I receive menu, hide, and stop other scripts in the sprite. Pretty basic. This is going to be the case with most sprites. We'll be putting this little bit of code in there because it's just really nice to have. We'll grab a when I receive and choose game start. Put a repeat until inside with an if then statement inside, if then else. Put an equal sign in, go to variables, and check if your camera up is 1. So if your camera's up, it will show, it will go to the front layer, and it might have to go backwards a few layers. I know mine will, because when we add buttons, there are quite a few buttons here. So I'm going to say 10 layers. If I need to change this later, I easily can. And we need to choose the location it needs to go. I know in my case is 139 and -73. It'll probably be a little bit different for yours. We also need to set the overall size for how big it's going to be. I know that mine will be just normal 45. And the other half, you can say go to front layer and hide. This is really all that needs to go on here with the map. Now let's move on to the map buttons. So I'll call it map buttons, it's new sprite, and I will drag in all of the map buttons. Okay, you can see how I've imported the buttons, and you might be a bit confused as to why this looks the way it does. But forget how these ones look and just focus on how these look. Okay, this is what your camera buttons should look like. Okay, do this with every one. Make a version of your map where every single button is lit up. See, 12 is called 12 and it's lit up here. All the same everywhere else. When I was making these, messed up originally and started doing this instead, because you can see it lines up, but I did it like this. Very inefficient, and then I remembered I could just do this. So just make all of your buttons do this. Just trust me, make all of them do this and name them accordingly. Name them 12 to what the button is, like 12, 11, 10, 09, because the button's called 09, 08, 08, so on and so forth. You understand. Let's get started on the programming process. When we receive menu, we will hide and stop other scripts in the sprite. Again, pretty basic. Everybody knows that thing. Now, what we'll do is we'll say when I receive game start, inside of a repeat until, put an if else inside. Then grab an equal sign and check if our camera up equals 1. If our camera is up, we will switch our costume to camera number. Then we will show, go to front layer, and go to 139.73. Again, this will change for you. however it works for you, lining it up with your map. So whatever your map is, right, mine is this, yours would be that too. And also setting the size the same. In my case, again, is 45. Yours will probably be different. Great. And then in this else statement, just saying hide. Okay. That was the easy part. This is where it'll get a little bit confusing. Try to stick with me, because I could have done it the same way I did it in the FNAF 1 tutorial. However, I want to show you multiple ways to do the same thing. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you a different way of doing the camera buttons. It's a little bit more tedious, but it is a different way because I don't want to be showing you the exact same things over and over and over again. If you want to do it the same way as in the FNAF 1 tutorial with clones, you can do that. I'm going to show you how to do it without clones. So, when I receive game start, grab open a repeat until, and then inside of this repeat until, we will check if equals and camera up equals 1. And then inside of here, we will say if the mouse is down. This is where it's going to get a bit confusing. So what I recommend doing, switching your costume to what it needs to be and setting the sizes accordingly and making them go to their correct locations. Same thing with this. Okay, here is where our buttons will be. This is the size I have mine set at. Yours may be in a different location and a different size, but all that matters is that you're seeing the size that it's at and you know where it's going to be on the screen. So, let's focus on the camera 1 button. Where is camera 1? Camera 1 is located right here. Okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to find the X and Y positions of this piece. So if I move my mouse up to the corner of this button, we see that I get 62 as my X. Okay? So we're going to write that down. 62 is the first X in this top corner. Go to the other top corner and see that it says 82. Write that down. Now go to the bottom corner and figure out the Y. My lowest Y possibility is about a negative 106. If we go up, we'll see that it's about, we can round up and say negative 93 to give myself a little bit more wiggle room here. 93. Write all those numbers down for each of these buttons. Figure out how far X you can go on both sides and how far Y you can go on both sides and write them down. We're going to be using those numbers here to figure out where you are when you click. So, grab an if else. Inside of this if else, we're going to need 4 and statements. Just like this. Now, let's grab a greater than symbol and start with our mouse X. We knew our first one was 62. If mouse is greater than 62, meaning it has to be over here. Right? This is what I wanted you to do. Again, I'll run it through it again. Find your button, 1, and you want to do the left side of your button first. And then the right side of your button. Okay? Left side and right side in this order so that it's easy to set this up over and over again. Left side, 62. Right side, 82. Okay. Then the bottom, left, right, bottom, top. That's how it's going to go. Left, right, and then bottom, negative 106 about, and then top, about negative 93. Left, right, bottom, top. So left was 62. Right, you switch this over to a less than, and my right was 82. We switch this mouse X to a mouse Y, and we start with a greater than. This is the bottom number, negative 106. And one more time, negative 93, and we swap this to a less than. Those are my constraints for every single button. Then we broadcast camera change. We set our camera number to 01, or if it's just 1 for you, it could be 1. Mine's 01, because again, I'm setting the costume to the camera number 01. My costume is called 01, so I set it to 1. And then we can wait 1 second. You can do a little bit less than that if you want to be able to transfer through your cameras a little bit quicker. You can do 1.5, right? Fantastic. Now, we duplicate this big thing we just made and we put it in here. And now you find your second button, and then your third and your fourth and your fifth. Right? So I'll run through your second one. So let's look at my second button. My camera 02 is right here. So over here, again, left first, I see about 115. On this side, I see about 135. The bottom, about 106. And the top, 93, negative 93. And all we do is plug and play those numbers. My first one was 115. Second one, 135. Third one, negative 106. And my fourth one, negative 93. Only thing I change here is the camera number that I go to. Now you're going to do this with every other button that you have. And I'll do the same, and once I'm done, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I'm done. I have all my other buttons programmed to the constraints of how far they can go. This final one you can just switch to an if. You don't need to have it in if else. There we go. It's a bit jank, but I did want to show you a different way of doing it if you didn't want to mess around with clones. And possibly have clones creating clones that have a bunch of lag problems. This is a way to fix some lag problems that come with clones. So there you go. So now we can see that if we run this and this at the same time, that as I click 9, my camera up's not 1. Hold up. I'll set my camera up to 1. Okay. Now we see that if I press camera 7, switch to 7, 8, 3, 1. And if you're trying to click really fast and you see it's not working, that's because of that wait 0.5 seconds. If you want to turn that down, you definitely can. But this is what it should be doing. Fantastic. Reconnect these blocks where they should be. Great.